Welcome back, my creepy cuties. Imagine waking up after a fresh snowfall. The world is silent. Every field, every road, every rooftop is covered in untouched white. Then someone notices a trail of footprints, not human, not horse, not deer, just a single line of hoof-shaped prints, disappearing into the distance. By lunchtime, people across Devon, England, were discovering the very same thing. And nearly 170 years later, no one knows exactly what left them. This is the story of the Devil's Footprints. The date was February 9th, 1855. The night before, a heavy snowfall had blanketed much of Devon in southwest England. By morning, the snow had stopped, leaving behind a pristine white landscape. As villagers stepped outside, they noticed something impossible. Running through fields, lanes, gardens, and villages was a trail of hoof-like impressions. Each print measured roughly 4 inches long and was spaced about 8 to 16 inches apart. Even stranger, the tracks often appeared to travel in a perfectly straight, single-file line. They didn't resemble the left-right pattern you'd expect from most four-legged animals. At first, people assumed they belonged to some wandering livestock. Then they began following them. According to eyewitness reports, the mysterious trail crossed stone walls, climbed over high garden fences, continued across rooftops, passed beside chimneys, crossed frozen streams and estuaries, and even appeared on both sides of haystacks and enclosed gardens without any obvious point of entry. Some witnesses claimed the tracks squeezed through narrow drains and gaps too small for any known animal. The trail simply continued, as though whatever had made it cared very little about ordinary obstacles. Reports poured in from dozens of communities across Devon. Contemporary newspapers suggested the tracks extended anywhere from 40 to nearly 100 miles, although no single person followed the entire route. Hunters, farmers, and curious villagers attempted to trace the footprints, but many eventually lost the trail or found it ended abruptly. 1 week later, on February 16, 1855, the Western Times newspaper published one of the first widely circulated reports describing the strange event. Within days, newspapers throughout Britain had picked up the story, and with every retelling, one terrifying name became attached to the mystery: the Devil's Footprints. Victorian England was a deeply religious society. To many people, there was only one explanation: Satan himself had walked across Devon during the night. Some ministers warned their congregations to remain vigilant. Families became afraid to venture outdoors after dark. Children whispered stories of demons wandering the snowy countryside while everyone slept. Not everyone believed the tracks belonged to the devil. Others suggested they had been left by a ghostly animal, a giant bird, an unknown creature, or some mysterious cryptid that had slipped silently through the night. As fear spread, so did the search for rational answers. Naturalists proposed that badgers, rabbits, otters, or rodents might have left unusual impressions in the snow. One theory suggested mice hopping through the snow had created paired prints that later melted into hoof-like shapes. Another pointed to the weather itself. After the snowfall came a gradual thaw. As the snow softened and refroze, ordinary animal tracks may have become enlarged and distorted into something far stranger than they originally appeared. One of the most famous explanations involved an escaped kangaroo from a private menagerie. Believe it or not, exotic animals occasionally escaped from traveling collections during the Victorian era, and a kangaroo's hopping pattern can leave unusual tracks. Then there was perhaps the strangest scientific theory of all. Some people suggested an experimental balloon had broken free during the storm, dragging a tether or horseshoe-shaped device across the snow for miles. Creative? Absolutely. Convincing? Not to most people. The problem is that no single explanation accounts for every report. No known animal comfortably explains tracks reportedly continuing over rooftops, walls, frozen waterways, enclosed gardens, and miles of countryside in what witnesses described as a remarkably consistent trail. Modern historians offer another possibility. Rather than one creature leaving one continuous line of footprints, newspapers may have combined dozens of separate discoveries into a single extraordinary story. People shared what neighbors had seen. Reporters gathered accounts from different villages. Over time, isolated mysteries became one legendary event, and folklore did the rest. Today, most researchers believe we'll probably never know exactly what happened on that snowy February morning. Perhaps unusual weather distorted ordinary animal tracks. Perhaps several unrelated trails became woven together by excited witnesses and sensational newspapers. Or perhaps there really was something moving across Devon that no one has ever been able to explain. Whatever the truth may be, one fact remains. The devil's footprints have never completely disappeared from history. Nearly 2 centuries later, historians still debate them, folklorists still study them, and curious minds still wonder what could have crossed an entire countryside without leaving behind a single answer. Sometimes the greatest mysteries aren't remembered because we proved them true. They're remembered because no explanation ever quite fits. Maybe that's why these footprints still haunt us today. Not because we know what made them, but because we don't. I'm Vivian Vale. The living write history, but the dead tell tales.